So with that, let's get started. Maybe I'll start with a little update on where I'm at. No new transactions for me. I'm still working through a 6-unit in the area that I like to buy. I've in that same area, which is Spryfield, a few buildings have come on market and gone for big numbers for that neighborhood. And it's definitely going to change things because once that happens, the off-market deals become harder to find because most other landlords are aware, at least of the public transactions that are taking place.
Yeah.
So there's a few that are pending sale right now that I'm very curious to see how they firm up because I think it might be the start of the end for me in Spryfield. I think this might be my last building because now at these new prices that they're trading at unrenovated on market, it's no longer feasible to make money, in my opinion, and kind of get the lift that you need to grow forward. They're still good investments, but they're not like an active
it's just a different play, right?
Exactly.
Like that you're lifting to break even kind of, or to recover your renovation costs, but not your initial investment, which is like the awesome thing is when you can recover your initial investment as well.
Yeah.
For context, what were those listed at price per door?
Roughly $150 a door for unrenovated, and then fully renovated at $225 to $240 a door, and they're both pending sale.
Yeah.
And I would say the renovation quality, from what I could tell from photos, was okay. And then the one that was unrenovated, I went through it. It was a nice standardized building, all 2-bedroom units. But again, $150 a door plus is a little scary, I think, for being able to get a lift. But again, as an investment, if you think you can get your rents, you can definitely get the 2 bedrooms up over $1,000 with minor renovation. So then you're going to cash flow, which is nice, right? Usually it's $500 of rent equals $100,000 of value. So if you're getting $1,000 a month and you're paying under $200 a door, you should have a bit of value there to get some cash flow out of it, even without having to go too crazy with the renos.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about sort of before, the world's rapidly changing around us. So it's kind of all like trying to figure out how to navigate this new environment that we're in. And my concern with that sort of stuff is the first thing you said was like, oh, if you can get the rents up, right? Like,
and that's the other thing. How do you get the rents up without renovating the units?
Yeah. So you're putting a big outlay of cash up front, and these things have to appraise, which those numbers are reachable, but they're not a slam dunk. So they got to appraise. You got to put a big chunk down. If you're renovating them too, or if you're not, I don't know, man. It's gonna be hard to get the money out, but a lot of people are new to the market. They've got cash, they've got backers, they want to place it somewhere.
A lot of young guys in there.
A lot of young guys. Like every place that I show up, it's like there's a young guy that's around, I don't know, late 20s.
Yeah, and
then there's some older gentleman who looks like 30 years older, right? Yeah, presumably a father, uncle.
Partner.
Yeah.
That's very, very common. I would say a lot of the guys looking at it was the same for this building. They have a family member that's involved that's going to be helping them get into it. And I've been seeing that with a lot of these buildings is a family member, whether it be, like you said, a father or an uncle or someone that they know that does the investing, that's willing to kind of be involved as an equity partner and give them some cash up front to help them get into it and get started. And they're full of piss and vinegar. So they're going to get the work done, get them their lift, get them the refi, and kind of roll forward with it, it's becoming more and more of a requirement because the pricing is getting to be more and more intense. Yeah. And it's becoming more difficult even to make money on single families like we've talked about before. Yeah. So I was saying this to a few of my clients. I feel like we're having, like you see it in Alberta, everything trades for a set price. Everything's $200 a door. And so I feel like we're going there now with some of our things. Like everything is kind of all over the map. Like you see people closing deals at $70 a door, $150 a door, $250 a door. Like it's kind of crazy. Yeah. I think we're going to start to have more stabilized, like all of our, let's say lower income areas. It's instead of it now being $100 a door, it's just going to average out at like $170 a door. Everyone's going to be kind of knowing that becomes the value.
I mean, that seems like a stretch, my man.
It does. But then at the end of the day, like you think everyone's going to get their rents to about $1,000 a month now. Like you can rent anything. Exactly. Well, the rent controls need to change. I understand that. That's the one thing. But then on the flip side is there's always someone willing to pay that's coming from out of town.
That's the bigger issue.
Exactly. So that's what's going to do it in the short term. And in the long term, the rent will just kind of also stabilize at around $995 for the cheapest units. And that gives you those $170, $200 a door valuations.
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of people reading the news on the market appreciation and not reading any of the news on the tenancy laws. Because why you would come from out of province to be like, yeah, let's do it, and not really grasp the challenges associated with turning these properties over is surprising me, but like whatever the headline is that the prices are going up. But
I think the value increases right now has allowed everyone to look past it, because even some of my clients who already own a bunch of units here don't even really know or understand the tenancy laws. So I think it's a mixture of like, we're still making money and everyone's so busy and focused on acquiring things that they're not paying attention to it. And additionally, I think they're not doing a great job of making it super clear and concise and in one location.
No kidding.
Like you called me the other day because you couldn't find it, nor could I. And the only reason that we had the info at our place was my property manager called tenancy board and got it all broken out. But he also called them a few weeks ago.
Got a different
answer. Of course. So this is the problem. And so he's been calling every week to get an update. And now there's supposed to be a form coming out. But I don't think anyone knows. Like, I haven't seen anywhere online that there's supposed to be a form coming out. But if you call them, they'll tell you that there's a form coming out.
And that form will be about giving notice to a tenant for the purpose of renovation. It's funny. I talked to an investor in Winnipeg, and she was telling me a bit about, because we're sort of comparing tenancy law or tenancy rules, whatever you want to call it. And in Winnipeg, they've got a couple of really cool things. One, there's this thing called the Orders, which is a database that both tenants and landlords can search to see if there have been any orders against a particular tenant. I.e., deposit disputes, evictions, late payments that have been registered, or, offenses on the part of the landlord.
Yep.
And so they've got that amazing system. Everyone here clamors for the landlord registry. Bring it on, as long as it means there's a tenant registry as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the other thing they've got there is that you're only subject to rent control if you fall below a certain price point. I can't remember what she said it was. It'd be like, if you're under 980, you are a low-income rent-controlled unit. But if you're above it, it's not rent control, so you can do whatever you want. Which is kind of counterintuitive, because like if you'd given someone a discount in the past, maybe you kept a rent artificially low at 950, even though it's nice enough to be a higher rent unit.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some nuance into that, but in a weird way, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, it kind of does make sense, because some of these neighborhoods and some of these buildings have been, historically one thing, and then it's now a problem where people come and change them to a different type of product, C class to B class or whatever. It's just people are like, different regions obviously are doing things differently, but with that order system especially, I'm like, man, bring that on here. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, the order definitely. Again, the rent control at different levels sort of makes sense, but then it also kind of feeds into this idea of like these slums where right now it's like, okay, like you can operate a building that's old if you got it for really cheap and you're getting your $900 a month, but it starts to perpetuate really bad. Like we were watching a show last night about how, because they've had rent control in places like New York for a long time, and this lady can't leave her 2-bedroom apartment because she's in for $1,300. And they're releasing them for $3,800.
Yeah,
but she's in a rent controlled unit, so she's not leaving. But like I was like, okay, there is a difference where it's like rent's gone up triple. They've been there for 30 years, and if her and all the other tenants stayed in that building, I bet you once he pays his property tax, insurance, like just the basics of operating,
he'd be screwed.
He would be screwed, and so it's only the fact that the rest of the units have turned over that building can keep operating. But it can cause a real issue, and he wouldn't be able to do the maintenance, and the building would end up defaulting, and then nobody's got a place to live.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I was like, that shows that what happens over time. She's been getting her little 20, because she said she moved in at, like, their family moved in at $900, and now it's $1,300. And that's just been the incremental, like, rent controlled bumps.
Also, it's like, man, if you could afford $900 30 years ago. Well,
she knew
probably swing the extra rent.
She could swing a further rent, not necessarily $3,800, but more rent.
Neither here nor there, but yeah, it's and then I know that the housing department was looking at all the renovations that commission set up, and they're implementing, I think, a bunch of them, and that's why some of this news is still coming down the pipe. Interestingly, it's like, one of the things commission said was that rent control doesn't work, and that's like the one that they're just
continuing to drag on.
To do no matter what.
Thanks for watching that clip from Master Keys Podcast. Check out that full episode here. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share our podcast.
When I was broke, I had rich habits. When I was broke, I had rich habits.